Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us for the follow-up sessions from the City of Toronto's public consultations. And tonight we are going to be covering 3 noise sources, and so we will be having a bit of a jam session when it comes to the bylaw review. But I would like to welcome you all. And this is gonna be I hope you can all see my screen. I just changed to the agenda. So this is what we're gonna be covering tonight. Who we are, who I am, and who Toronto Noise Coalition is. We're gonna do a land acknowledgement. You're gonna see a private screening of a hot doc that's 8 minutes long. And then we're gonna look into Toronto noise data, also talk about the noise bylaw review, and that's gonna be the bulk of the session today. And then we're gonna have Q&A afterwards. And then about 10 minutes, 7 minutes towards the top of the hour, I'm going to step in and we're going to do a wrap up and let you know what you can do to make Toronto a better sounding city. And then I'm available if people want to stay and chat a little bit longer. That is also an option, but I always want to recognize people's time, and time to me is our most important resource. So with that, we'll get started here. And so my name is Ingrid Boudet, and I am the founder of No More Noise Toronto, and we're a grassroots community of individuals and organizations who are working to create a better sounding city with a higher quality of life. We take a data-centered approach, and so we study noise with equipment at people's homes, and also we provide a way for people to submit noise reports for a variety of different noise sources through a quick and easy process, which is not necessarily what 311 is. And so I will hand it over to Kathy, and so Kathy can give you a little bit more background about the Toronto Noise Coalition. It was established in 2016, and the members are Toronto residents and business people working together to ensure that Toronto remains with no adverse impacts of noise on our health. The Toronto Noise Coalition was actively involved in the 2019 bylaw review, and they're bringing their expertise and knowledge to the table to help you be as informed as possible. Kathy, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, yes, Ingrid, and thank you for your help in organizing this session. And I understand the first session on motorcycle noise was very helpful to everybody. Yes, we had the Toronto Noise Coalition was established in to help provide the residents' voice in developing the 2019 amendments to the noise bylaw. And also attending tonight are Alan Baker, who is very interested in motorcycle noise issues, and Lynn Robinson, who is very involved in amplified sound issues and dealing with noise on the waterfront. So we wanted to continue to keep the coalition alive to help with this review because of our experience in the past. And we have a list of items that still have to be dealt with.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kathy. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So while we all probably would like to have a quieter sounding city, there are probably different opinions in this room, even among supporters. So we ask that the decorum in the room, in the space, is that our words, tone, and conversation be respectful to us and others. And we ask that you save your questions to the end of the presentation. We will try and allow as much time as possible for that. And so we'll manage Q&A through people putting up their hands in the Zoom or visually. So I do want to do a little bit of a land acknowledgement. And while I come as a settler from German parents, I have deep respect for the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island and recognize that there are many ceded and unceded territories across our nation. I'm coming to you from Toronto, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Both of the books you see here portray a deep respect to the original peoples of this land. and the many things that we can learn from them, particularly in our relationship to nature and what it's trying to tell us through sound. And if you like maps and the history of Canada, that Adam Schultz book is a great one to read. It's really fun. So I'm happy to share with you that No More Noise Toronto was actually one of 7 projects chosen from 140 applications for Hot Docs Citizen Minutes. So Hot Docs is an organization that's been doing documentaries for the last 30 years. And this is the 2nd season of Citizen Minutes, which is ordinary citizens doing extraordinary things. And so I think this is a great introduction. It focuses a bit more on vehicle noise, but it has a character in it where when you think about how we navigate through our cities, for some people, any kind of noise, construction noise, amplified sound, all of that impacts them. So with that, this is 8 minutes long. So I'm going to, this is my cue to pause recording and resume recording. There we go. So noise is an equity issue, and people who are blind, ill, have brain injuries, recovering from surgery, young, old, suffering from PTSD can suffer from noise pollution more than others. And in the documentary, Tor Oyamo mentions this. In the Toronto Public Health Study, How Loud is Too Loud, they found that those in the lowest income percentiles are 11 times more likely to suffer adverse health effects from noise pollution. And when I think about how people can interact with the city and submit their complaints, the process doesn't work, because if you attended a public consultation, you would have seen this slide. And this is the numbers that you see here are only from the bylaws that they can enforce. So for example, when amplified sound is allowed and somebody complains about it, that number is not here. Leaf blowers, garbage trucks. Garbage trucks was a big conversation piece in the public consultations. They're allowed 24/7. So nobody could complain about a garbage truck. That is why I built the Not 311 app. And we've got we're approaching 7,500 noise reports. You can report garbage trucks at any time. You can report leaf blowers. You can report amplified sound. And so this data, and you can report it anonymously and quickly. And this data will be cleaned and presented to City Council. I have a University of Toronto student from a geography department, and we're working on this together. And so that we can actually present an accurate picture of what sound and noise is like in our city. So with that, Kathy, are you ready? Here comes your slide. So we're going to go into noise bylaw, and we're going to be covering, Kathy's got a big task in front of her here. She's going to cover general noise, amplified sound, and construction. So with that, you are on mute, Kathy. Kathy, you're on mute. Whoop, yeah, find that button.
Fixed, yes. Okay, I think it's important to start with a kind of overview of the noise complaints that have been raised in the current review, and that Ingrid with her crowdsourcing app is chasing. That 53% of respondents have reported concerns about noise pollution. This is for a city survey, and 51% thought it had increased. And this was really reiterated in the sessions that I attended. It's really the biggest problem in the high density downtown areas. And amplified sound had the most complaints, and second was construction. Of course, there's many other noise sources. I'd like to note that the leaf blower issue, City Council has finally decided to do something about it, and watch for reports coming up in 2024 that will start to implement a ban on them. as well as complaints about what the bylaws actually say, I think most of the complaints really come from enforcement issues, and especially those at night. The inspectors delay on checking on complaints, and the fines are too small, and offenders are not they're still encouraged to continue their work. So there's a whole lot of things that this review is looking at beside the actual noise bylaw. So next slide. Okay, so I think it's important to note that the provincial organizations such as Metrolinx are not subject to the city's zoning bylaw. This is the government deciding what goes where. And the OPP can regulate noise from moving vehicles. The federal government deals with noisy aircraft. So the City of Toronto is dealing with activities by residents and businesses in the city, such as garbage collection, construction, amplified sound. Okay. So we're looking at how the bylaw can be changed in a number of ways in this review. And there seems to be kind of general agreement to remove any exemptions from for loading, unloading, and add time prohibitions. So this will be like for the private garbage collections in the middle of the night. Clarifying provisions for waste collection for government work, but also providing for special exemption for emergency operations. I've sort of noted before about the banning the leaf blowers, but power devices generally, they're trying to establish a reasonable decibel level for measurement at source rather than point of reception. And there's a new category called for unreasonable and persistent noise to be able to cover multiple noise sources. And we noted that the impacts of vibration, which creates noise, of course, was deleted in the 2019 bylaw, but it's proposed to be added back in. Okay, so amplified sound. The city's looking at reducing the decibel levels that are permitted to those in provincial guidelines, and adding a new kind of regulation that deals with the impacts of unusual hums and hiss or in music. And they're also looking at separating commercial noise amplification from neighbor activities. The neighbor activities always seems to be a problem. The Toronto Noise Coalition had proposed that the bylaw measure noise levels at source, which is a much more efficient and time-sensitive and less disruptive way to enforce sound levels than at the point of reception, where the inspectors have to go to people's homes. Okay, construction. The city is looking at adding new provisions to treat high and low impact projects differently. For example, small home improvement projects should not be tied to time restrictions as long as they're reasonably quiet, which seems like a useful thing to do. But what the Toronto Noise Coalition had tried to do previously, which I think now the city is beginning to agree is a really good idea, is to significantly reduce the noise of backup beepers on construction projects to warn those nearby, but not the whole neighborhood. And this is really a big issue in the high density areas where people in the towers get deluged by backup beeper blasts. Okay. Oh, so it's very critical to make sure that exemption processes work better, and make sure that people are clear about what is possible to achieve. The city's doing a night economy study to introduce entertainment uses that are now only permitted in the downtown. Residents in the downtown have tons of complaints about this, and it's how do you build that into requirements for a business and make it work? And the night economy study is saying require the licensing of the business to have noise control plans. And this seems like a hopeful solution to a major problem. So it's tied to exemptions. And well, exemptions have noise control plans, but to expand that concept to licensing of businesses that are likely to produce noisy amplified sound. The fees for exemptions need to be increased. But there's also consideration of waiving fees for nonprofit organizations, and that seems to be a good idea. It's important to review what the councillor can do with exemption applications, because the councillors have a role of approving them and also telling making sure that affected neighbors know about what's happening. And then it's also important that there's public notices so people know what's happening. This is important for construction projects, which where continuous pouring of concrete is required, and they can't stop until they're finished. And so this goes off, it will go on into the night. So this is critical how all of that's managed. Okay, and improving the enforcement process is absolutely essential. And part of it is making sure the bylaw regulations are clearer and make the noisemaker responsible for ensuring the acceptable level of noise. So this is where the noise control plans for entertainment uses becomes really an important tool, and tied to licenses. So if business does not comply with their license, then they're in real trouble. Ingrid has talked about the need to increase the efficiency of 311 in dealing with complaints. And a really critical change that has to be made is increase the hours inspectors are available to be on duty, including late nights. and Sundays to be able to address complaints in a timely way. The city has said that the fines have to be increased to recover costs, but this increase in fines to a level that will actually help deter offenders is really important. The city also is talking about the problem of delays in getting before courts, and we need more, absolutely need more timely court hearings. A suggestion was made to fine landlords who don't provide city requirements to potential tenants, so people know in advance what's needed. And also, the city needs to find ways to better inform the public about what the rules are. Yeah.
Great. Kathy, you did a great job. You covered lots in that 20 minutes or 15 minutes that you had.
Well, there's lots to talk about.
There certainly is. And so my friends on the screen here, I invite you to